Hey y'all, so today I'm going to show you how to make a patch crochet throw. It kind of puts you in the mind frame of a quilt. So the way we're going to do this is we'll make a few crochet squares and then we'll put them together. So here we're going to start the project by using making a slip knot. And I use for this project, I used the Bernat Blanket Yarn. Of course, you guys know that's like my favorite yarn. So we'll go ahead here and we'll make ourselves a slip knot. Okay. And then you'll go ahead and place that slip knot on your crochet hook. So for this project, I used a 10mm crochet hook, and I will put on my website, ahsel.com, some instructions on how to construct this blanket. So you're going to go ahead and make yourself a foundation chain. And so what I did was I made a foundation chain of 18 plus 2 for a total of 20. So here I am just showing you how to create a foundation chain, and if you need some additional tutorial on how to do a foundation chain, I'll link that information in the video as well as in the description box below the video. Okay, so you're just going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and you'll do that for a total of 20. So 18 plus 2 for a total of 20 stitches in your foundation chain. Once you have that, then you're going to go ahead and insert the crochet hook in the second stitch from the hook. Okay, so you'll count over to the second stitch from the crochet hook and you'll insert your hook, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 on your crochet hook, yarn over, and then you'll pull through the bottom 3. Okay, I'll show you that again. Yarn over, insert your crochet hook into the foundation chain, pull up a loop. So you have 4 right there. See the 4? Pulling up the loop is that one that I'm pointing to with my finger. Keep that underneath the hook. Okay? Yarn over, and then not yarn over, but pull through, and then you're going to have 3 on your crochet hook. Now you're going to yarn over, which is just putting the yarn around the back side of the hook, and then pull through. And I'll show you that again. Yarn over, insert your crochet hook, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your crochet hook, yarn over, and pull through again. And you're just going to continue this all the way down, like I said, your foundation chain. So go ahead and work that now. Okay, and this is what it's shaping up to look like. I have a few more to do. I wanted to put that on camera so you can see how we're going to end the row. So just go ahead and continue making your half double crochets. Okay, and you're going to do it to the very end. Okay, and then the last one right there in that last stitch, you're going to put another half double crochet. Okay, and there you have it. That is the end of your first row. And you see how that's flush? That's what you want it to look like. You want every single stitch to have a half double crochet in it. You're going to chain 2 and turn your work. Okay, now you are going to then place a half double crochet in that first spot. Okay. This is where it can get a little tricky for people, because I have people that will say like my row is getting smaller, things are shrinking. When you put that very first stitch in either the first chain or the second chain, wherever you place it, you want to start counting. So you're going to count your stitches all the way down the row until you get to the end. When you chain 2, turn your work, you're going to count again. The key here is you want to have the same number of stitches in all of your rows. So this is where my beginners get a little confused, because they're like, why is my work bending, or why is my work shrinking? It's because they're not getting enough stitches, or they're getting too many stitches in the row. So it's going to be real important, and this is a small square that we're making, to count your stitches as you go along. You're just going to make half double crochets all the way down the row. Okay. I'm trying to go slow enough so that you can catch it. But this is just a half double crochet, and this entire project all we're using is half double crochets until we get to like the border, and then we use a single crochet. So see there, I'm making sure that I get a stitch in that turning chain. Remember we did the chain 2, that's considered your turning chain, and you still want to put a stitch in that so that you have even you have an even square. You want your ends to be straight. Do you see how that looks there? Okay, then you're just going to chain 2, turn your work, and do it again. Okay, and I just showed you this a few more times to see how the fabric is shaping up. I think that I made 16 rows. So I just did it until I had a square, and the square I believe measured like 12 inches by 12 inches. So you're just looking for consistency at this juncture. So however many rows you made, however wide it is, and however the length of it is, you want that to be the consistent thing for your entire blanket. So see here, we just make tons of little squares. Well, they're not even little, they're 12 by 12. So you make your squares in all the colors that you want, and then that's when you'll form your blanket. So this is not a hard project, it's just kind of tedious, and it just takes you to be a little bit more exact in your measurements. Okay, so now that we have all of our squares completed, what I did next was I went ahead and put a white border around every single one of my squares. I did this for two purposes. One, I wanted to make sure that I had the same number of stitches, or the same number of stitches going around the entire blanket, and then also I wanted to kind of frame out each of the squares so that it looked a little bit more consistent and unified when I combined everything together. And I hope that makes sense, but that's just my little extra. So what I did for every one of my squares is I completed a foundation chain, a single crocheted border. So I'm showing you here how to connect the yarn to make your border. So if you can just follow along here, I just tied the yarn to the end piece, the piece that I ended each square with. I just tied the yarn to that. I hope that's not confusing. It's easier to see than it is for me to explain. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and just do a single crochet stitch all the way around the square. Now when you get to the sides, of course it's a little harder to find your stitches, your holes. So what I did here was I just looked for a hole. I didn't like make this like I didn't make this difficult, because you're going to do this however many squares you have. So I had a total of 9 squares, so I had to do this a total of 9 times. So that's how you want to kind of know how long you're going to have to do this. I didn't make it like, oh my God, what if I can't find the correct hole? It wasn't like that. The key thing here is you want to make sure you have the same number of, you want to create the same number of single crochet stitches in for all of your squares, if that makes sense. So along the side of my squares, I had 13 stitches. And along the top part of my square, I had 16 stitches. So I just made sure that I had the same number of stitches along all the sides. So what I did here was I would count the stitches, I would write it down, and then I made sure that I had that same amount on both sides of the square. Make sense? Okay. And I did this, like I said, for 2 reasons. One, I wanted it to blend. I wanted it to look very seamless. And 2, it made it easier when I started to match up my sides. Like I would have 13 stitches matched up to 13 stitches, or 16 stitches matched up to 16 stitches. I hope that makes sense. And like I say, if you follow here on the screen, it's a little easier to see versus me telling you. So see, I don't count the corners. See, and I just kind of squared up there, and then that's where I'm going to stitch them all together. So go ahead and complete all of your squares, making sure that you put a border around all of your squares, making sure that you put all of your squares are consistent. So if you have 12 stitches, make sure all of your squares have 12 stitches. Whatever it is that you're doing, make sure they're consistent from square to square, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Okay. And you'll see me throughout the entire video, I'm just going back in and I count my stitches to make sure that I have the same amount on every one of my squares, or my patches, whatever you want to call them. I'm calling them patches. Patches. So it's just important, guys, to just remember to take your time and just count your stitches. I did that throughout my whole project. It was a little tedious, but I felt like it would make it a lot easier when it came to putting everything all together. So just take your time. It's no rush. Just make it as neat as possible, because it's going to be for you to enjoy, you know? Okay. So when I line up the project, I'm going to line that side up with another square that has 16 on the same side. I hope that's clear, guys. I really do. Okay. And here I am, I'm just putting 2 stitches in the same spot to make the corner. So to make a corner, you're just going to do a single crochet in the same hole twice, and then that's going to turn it. And once you're done, you're going to stick your crochet hook into the neighboring stitch. Just stick it, don't yarn over, just stick it straight in, going in. And then you're going to just pull through both of those that are on your hook. And that is how you end a square. See how that looks? And then you'll finish this off the way you finished off all of your other squares. So you'll get very comfortable with counting your stitches. You'll get very comfortable with ending projects, and you're going to get very comfortable with sewing. So that's what it looks like. And so here, this one here that I'm going to show you, so I just made sure that I had the same number of stitches again. I just verified again. So I had 16 along the top, 13 along the side, 16 along the bottom, and then 13 along the side. So when I went to go line everything up, it matches up evenly. So you don't have to do this step. I just did it. Just making sure that you have the same amount. That's the bottom line. You want to have the same. I can't stress that enough, because it makes it so much easier when you're putting your blanket together, which I'm going to show you here. So once you've constructed all of your patches, and some people do this as they go along. I did all of my patches first, all of my squares first. I sewed a border around all of them, and then I put everything together. So it just depends on how you want to do this. So to sew them together, you just are going to line up your single crochet stitches. Now, if you didn't want to put a border on, that is okay too. You just want to make sure that you're lining up the squares when you go to sew. And so the reason I put the border on is because it's going to be really easy for me to see how to connect them evenly. So I just picked the outside stitch on both of the crochet squares, and I'm just running my needle through them. See the outside. Hope you can see it with the green needle being a contrasting color, and then the outside, and then I'm just doing that. And then what I did was I sewed, I sewed 2 together, and then I sewed another one to that one. So then I had like a row. So I had 3 rows, and then I connected those rows together. Now I'm going to try to illustrate that in the video, but it's really hard because of the working space that I have, that it might not all show up in the camera. But what I did was I sewed 2 squares together, and then I sewed another square to those 2 to create a row of 3, and then I sewed the rows together. Yeah, so that's what I did. And actually this blanket was really easy to create. It just took a little time to get everything, get everything prepared. It's like making a really good recipe. You want to have all the ingredients and then you want to put it together. And so that's getting the ingredients and stuff was the hardest part, just getting everything together. But then once you had it, then you just put everything together. Okay. And what I'm showing you there is there's a little spot that wasn't connected, but when I put the rows together, this little area will all connect. So here it is. I'm trying to show you here how I have the 3 rows connected. So I put 3 squares together, and now I am just connecting them all to each row. Do you see? It's easier to see. See how I'm doing that? I'm just taking the same yarn, and because I put the border and because I'm using the same color thread, any imperfections, you won't be able to see them because they all blend together really easily. So that's the cool part about putting a border on. And see there, I'm just showing you how you just sew those together, and then it all works out perfectly. And this is like my lap blanket. When I'm traveling in a car, I don't need a full blanket. I just want something over my legs. So this is a perfect size blanket for something like that. If I'm in a chair and I'm reading a book, I can just kind of cover up, casually, and it's not like a bedtime blanket because it's not big enough. However, because this is very customizable, you can make more squares and make this blanket as big as you want it. It could even be a baby blanket. And like I say, on my website, I'm hoping to have some written instructions on how to do this. I just need to sit down and type them up for you guys. But you can customize this in terms of how big you want your throw. So in my case, this is a perfect reading blanket, perfect travel blanket, or if you have a baby, it's perfect for you to put this blanket like on the floor and then allow them to kind of lay on it or play on it. But this is what it looks like when it's all constructed. So it's really kind of cool looking. And then you can pick any colors that you wanted. I just used what I had. That's why it's kind of random colors, because I didn't want to go buy more yarn. But anyway, here it is. This is how I look with it. I just kind of cozy up in a chair. I can read a book or watch a movie. It's perfect for that. It's a perfect size. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for any additional videos. And I think that's pretty much it. Please be sure to check out my last couple of videos. I will see you next time. Bye guys.